Good Monday evening. Thank you so much for being with us. This is a special edition of KVUE News at 6. A Williamson County grand jury has indicted Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody and former Assistant County Attorney Jason Nusur, each on a felony charge of tampering with evidence, accusing them of destroying live PD video in the death of Javier Ambler in March of 2019. The 40-year-old man died in police custody last year after Williamson County Sheriff's deputies repeatedly used stun guns on him despite his pleas that he could not breathe. Records show Sheriff Robert Chody was booked into his own jail just before noon today. He was released a couple of hours later after posting $10,000 bond. Sheriff Chody is up for re-election in November, says the indictment is politically motivated.
We're now about 1 month from election, and the DA is just now acting on a case that is nearly 2 years old.
Williamson County District Attorney Sean Dix says there's nothing sinister about the charges. The evidence, he says, speaks for itself. Meantime, Sheriff Chody's opponent, Democrat Mike Gleason, had this to say on Facebook today. Reading in part, the people of Williamson County, quote, put their hope and trust in Robert Chody to uphold the law and keep the peace. Today's indictment shattered that trust, end quote. More charges are possible. Sheriff Chody is expected to have his first court date November the 30th. A special grand jury is expected to be called during the third week of October. We're joined now by senior reporter Tony Plahetsky live at the Williamson County Courthouse this evening. The announcement, Tony, today comes months after the KVUE defenders first reported details of Javier Ambler's death and the television show Live PD, which announced it destroyed the video of the incident after Robert Chody told them it wasn't needed. Tony?
And Brian, let's start there with the background on this case. The video that started it all. We fought hard to get that video, and in June, we were the first to release it to you, the public.
He's still westbound St. John's. 2 local units are with him.
St. John.
It was a car crash that quickly touched off a fatal encounter with deputies from the Williamson County Sheriff's Office.
Put your hands behind your back. What you're asking you to do.
A scene all too familiar.
Flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach.
An African-American driver, Javier Ambler, returning home from a poker night with friends at 1:23 in the morning on March 28, 2019, soon dead on an Austin street. 15 months later, his mother's grief so painfully raw.
I said, what happened to my son? He said, he's dead. And I asked him, I said, he's dead how? What happened? And I just lost it.
She's desperate for details about her son's final moments.
Every day I just think about him and want to know, give me some kind of information. I need to know what happened to my baby. I need to know.
That's what we're firstborn.
Until now, all investigators have told her is that her son died that night in police custody. Ambler's parents have lived with the torment of an unanswered question: why deputies would have wanted to stop him in the first place.
We now know that whatever happened started because Javier failed to dim his headlights.
This is the first time I'm hearing about that.
The KVUE defenders began looking into Ambler's death in February. For 3 months, Williamson County Sheriff's officials refused to release any information about what happened that night. Then they were left with little choice. On May 28th, just as a national outrage started over the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Williamson County officials released some records after the Texas Attorney General ordered them, Because deputies chased Ambler into Austin, his death is being investigated by APD and the DA's Civil Rights Division. We received this body camera video separately after it was made public over the weekend by the Austin Police Department with the backing of Travis County DA Margaret Moore.
Hey, big man, other hand now. Other hand. Put it out there. Other hand. Give me your hand. I'm going to take flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach. I can't breathe. Flat on your stomach. Flat on your stomach. Stop resisting. I can't breathe. Stop resisting. Stop. Sir, you need to comply. I'm not resisting. Stop resisting. Dad, I can't breathe. Put your hands behind your back. There you go. Roll. Do what we're asking you to do. Roll over. Do it now. Get on your stomach. Do it now. Roll over. Do it now. Roll over. Get his hand out.
We have not yet received dash camera video from Deputy J.J. Johnson, who initiated the traffic stop and chased Ambler for 22 minutes before he crashed just north of downtown Austin. But this internal affairs report gives the deputies perspective, and it makes clear that deputies chased Ambler because he failed to dim his headlights to oncoming traffic. It said Deputy Johnson and Deputy Zach Camden, who showed up as backup, tased Ambler 4 times after he refused to comply with their commands. The report concluded that neither deputy violated the department's pursuit or use of force policies, and there are no indications any deputy was disciplined. A separate in-custody death report filed with the AG's office says Ambler died of, quote, congestive heart failure and hypertensive cardiovascular disease associated with morbid obesity in combination with forcible restraint. His death ruled a homicide. In addition to a traffic ticket, the report notes that the most serious charge Ambler faced at the time of his death was evading arrest.
After getting shot during a mission
had the chance to speak with Javier Ambler's family today following the news of these indictments.
Well, Brian, we've been in touch all along, particularly Javier Ambler's sister, Kim. As you may know, they have had a number of public events in recent weeks and in recent months calling for justice and really crying out for justice. According to their attorney today, they are pleased that they believe that their path toward justice in Javier Ambler's death has begun with these indictments today. But, Brian, from their perspective, make no mistake, they believe that prosecutors should continue their quest, their fact-finding mission to find out exactly what happened to Javier Ambler that night back in 2019, as well as more information about the video from Live PD, and Brian, holding to account anyone who may have had any role in the destruction of that video.
Okay, Tony Plahetsky live for us in Williamson County. Tony, stand by. We're coming back to you in just a bit. Still ahead on this special edition of KVUE News at 6. We're taking a look back at some of the controversies in the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, including a high-stakes SWAT takedown and gift cards. How may they have been used as incentive for use of force? Stay with us. Welcome back to the special edition of KVUE News at 6. Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody was indicted and arrested today on a felony evidence tampering charge related to the destruction of video in Javier Ambler's death last year. Former General Counsel Jason Nasur was also indicted with the same charge. Just weeks after the death of Ambler, new questions about the tactics and relationship between the Williamson County Sheriff's Department and the now canceled show Live PD. That's after a second incident of possible excessive force and a high-risk SWAT raid uncovered by the KVUE defenders. Senior reporter Tony Plahetsky back with us again now. And Tony, walk us through these cases. The first involving Ramsey Mitchell. The two deputies involved, the same as in the Ambler case?
That's right, Brian. Deputies J.J. Johnson and Zach Camden were involved in the stop of Ramsey Mitchell. That happened in June 2019 and similarly involved crews from Live PD. Brian, unlike Javier Ambler's death, this incident did not involve a death. Ramsey Mitchell was left with serious injuries, according to his family, but it was actually broadcast live as it happened on the TV show Live PD. In the weeks after this happened, we did see several of Ramsey Mitchell's family members and friends testifying before Commissioner's Court. They say that they believe that he was the subject of excessive force, not only by Deputies Johnson and Deputy Camden, but also 3 additional deputies who arrived at the scene and used force to take down Ramsey Mitchell. Ramsey Mitchell, similarly to Javier Ambler, was being stopped for a relatively minor traffic violation. And also in this case, and we We saw this on that live PD video as it was broadcast nationally to a televised audience. Ramsey Mitchell did break and run from deputies. That is when they grabbed him first by the shirt and took him to the ground in what ended up really being a 5-on-1 pile by those Williamson County deputies, as Ramsey Mitchell in that video was seen resisting their arrest. Brian.
Tony, a police takedown caught by live PD cameras. Some questioning whether this needed to play out on national television the way it did.
Well, and that really is the whole premise for live PD, and that is showing police work as it happens. Again, in Javier Ambler's case, that incident happened in the overnight hours while live PD crews were in the car. The video was never shown publicly. It was never aired publicly. But unlike Ramsey Mitchell, it was shown live as it happens. The whole point of the show, as producers have said over and over, and as Sheriff Chody has said over and over, is to really provide a window for the public into law enforcement work and the dangers that they face as they do their work across the country. Brian.
All right, Tony Plahetsky, again, thank you for that. We'll be back with you in just a few minutes. And another look at the dramatic use of force by a Williamson County Sheriff's deputy involving a woman reported to be a domestic violence victim. That story straight ahead. You're watching a special edition of KVUE News at 6. Stay with us. This another dramatic use of force incident by Williamson County Sheriff's deputy uncovered by the KVUE Defender, sparking questions about the department. Tony Plahetsky back with us now. Tony, this was on a woman reported to be a domestic violence victim.
That's right, Brian. And unlike some of the other cases that we have profiled that involve live PD, this incident did not involve the reality show, but it was caught on body camera footage.
I need to see victim. I need to see if she needs EMS. Where's she at?
You're watching body camera video as Williamson County Sheriff's deputies respond to an emergency call from neighbors about a possible case of domestic violence in a nearby apartment. Rookie Deputy Amanda Pereira, just 3 months out of the academy, is the first to make contact with the suspected victim the evening of September 21st, 2019.
So what happened?
Nothing.
Yes. To make sure you're okay.
I'm fine, ma'am.
So
I'm fine. Like literally, I'm fine.
Okay.
The 20-year-old woman immediately expresses hesitation.
I do not want to talk to you, and especially Williamson County. Y'all have a really bad reputation. I've bad encounters with y'all. I do not want
I'm not gonna hurt you.
I know you aren't.
For the next 3 minutes, the deputy and alleged victim have a calm conversation.
So what?
We got into an argument.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And the woman insists that her boyfriend is gone.
So he left?
He left.
You don't know which way he went?
I don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Deputy Pereira instructs the woman to go back inside while she consults with other deputies on their way. Up until now, everything has remained calm.
I got her name and date of birth. She doesn't want to be cooperative. I see some marks on her neck that might be fresh.
Then Deputy Lorenzo Hernandez, a department training officer, arrives.
Wilson.
My sister, no, I really don't. You really don't. What the are you doing? What the This is tracking. What the
Deputy Hernandez, this vantage point from his body cam, grabs the woman and takes her to the ground. Again, she is a suspected domestic violence victim. Over the next 30 seconds, what had been a stable scene only moments earlier erupts into a frantic, chaotic encounter as a third deputy, David Dickerson, arrives. The 3 deputies handcuff the woman and eventually take her to the ground.
We're just trying to talk to you and make sure you're okay.
You're hurting me though. You're hurting me more than
Over the past several weeks, we've been in touch with that young woman's family. They say she doesn't want to talk publicly about what happened that night. But experts say what is so striking about what we see in these videos is that she had not been accused of a crime and was not physically resisting. And advocates for domestic violence survivors point out that while the deputies were sent to help her, they may have only traumatized her more.
Okay, quit talking.
Please let me get up, please.
Quit talking.
You're hurting.
Quit talking. Shut your mouth and quit talking, okay?
The 20-year-old woman remained handcuffed for several minutes as deputies Hernandez and Dickerson, with their guns drawn, searched what turned out to be an empty apartment.
Get in there and make yourself known.
Then they finally take the woman back inside and unlatch her handcuffs.
When we come to stuff like this, we're going to check for safety reasons, okay?
Hernandez began lecturing the
I
woman.
understand you don't want to cooperate. We can't force you to do that. We get that. We understand that. But you don't do what you just did. Not when we show up for something like this. We don't get your cooperation. That is what happens.
Yes.
Okay? All this screaming, all this does not make us stop. Okay?
You're re-victimizing the victim.
We showed the videos to one of the nation's leading law enforcement experts. Timothy Williams helped the Los Angeles Police Department develop domestic violence policies and procedures.
What you saw was wrong. That's not the training you received. That is just the opposite of de-escalation. That's escalation.
An internal affairs investigation agreed. This week, Williamson County Sheriff's officials confirmed that they looked into the matter at the time and suspended Deputy Hernandez for a day because, quote, his failure to properly de-escalate the incident is unacceptable. Sheriff's officials also required him to be retrained and removed him from being a training officer. But 2 months later, they promoted him to detective.
My first thought was, if this survivor needs help, again, would she feel safe calling?
Nikita Ved, legal services director for the nonprofit Safe Austin, said domestic violence survivors often need police to help calm them.
What a survivor does not need is more power and control being asserted over them.
Hernandez joined the Williamson County Sheriff's Office in September 2017 as part of a new group of deputies hired under Sheriff Robert Chody. He previously worked the Bastrop County Sheriff, who suspended Hernandez for 12 hours without pay months earlier after he left his gun at a Wingstop restaurant. Since then, he was featured on the show Live PD, and 3 months before the encounter with the woman, was involved in a controversial use of force in the arrest of Ramsey Mitchell, which remains under investigation.
We don't get your cooperation, that is what happens.
Yes.
Okay?
But nearly a year after that night, we have learned that the Texas Rangers and Williamson County prosecutors have opened an investigation into what happened and are reviewing it as a possible case of excessive force. Sheriff's officials say they welcome the investigation.
We have a job to do. Whether you understand it in the moment, I don't care.
That night, 17 minutes after they first got to the apartment, deputies ended the encounter with this domestic violence victim.
Tony Plahetsky back live in Williamson County with us now. Tony, this is actually one of 5 cases the Texas Rangers are investigating. What do you know about the others, and where do those cases stand? Apparently we have lost communication with Tony. We'll check back in with him in a bit. Time for a quick timeout. We'll be back after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to the special edition of KVUE News at 6. Again, our story tonight, a Williamson County grand jury has indicted Sheriff Robert Chody and former General Counsel Jason DeShure, each facing felony evidence tampering charges and the destruction of footage from the reality television show Live PD. Deputies chasing and using force on Javier Ambler in March of 2019, a man who died in police custody last year. We'll have much more on this story tonight on the news at 10. We hope you have a nice evening. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock. Meantime, we're always on at KVUE.com. Have a nice evening.
More than ever.